Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Friday Rambling. Specifically, our all October long spooky marathon. Yep, we are counting down to Halloween, and we are down to our last episode before Friday Ramblings becomes a Thursday Halloween treat as a one-time special, because we are counting down to Halloween, and we couldn't really do it on November 1st. Hey, you got to work with your calendar. So, for this last one, because I know a lot of what we've done this month has focused on classic horror. We discussed Edgar Allan Poe. We discussed Dracula, Frankenstein, the Universal monsters. And even the Addams Family, which certainly started in the classic days, even though it has come around to today. So just like we included the more modern interpretations of the Addams Family, today we're going to talk about relatively modern horror, in that it is horror from my lifetime. And that is, we are going to discuss the long and creepy career of Charles Band and his Full Moon features, or pictures, or studio. We're going to get into that later. But real quick, Charles Band came from a family of entertainers. We're not going to go too much into his biography, but Charles Band is a producer, director, studio head, and his father did some directing as well. His brother is a composer for movies. His son plays in, is a musician, has his own band. The Band family is a family of entertainers. And thus, Charles himself has always continued to plug away in the movie industry, even when things have not been financially wonderful for him. And we're not judging Mr. Charles Band, I want to assure you. I'm not judging you in any way. I'm certainly not going to make any accusations. We're going to mostly focus on the film franchises here. But, you know, hey, everybody has stumbles. But real quick, before Charles Band founded Full Moon, which is his most iconic label, he did have his own production company, which was Charles Band International Pictures, or International Productions, excuse me. However, due to the fact that he was not satisfied with the way his films were distributed by the motion picture companies, he decided to make his own small-scale theatrical distribution company in 1983 with Empire International Pictures. Now, Empire International, as a kind of predecessor prototype to Full Moon, it did set a standard that Full Moon would become very iconic for in the horror genre in Hollywood, which is he would produce franchises that, like the horror films of previous and throughout the 80s and 90s, were produced on a relatively low budget. Even though they were themselves highly creative and iconic movies. Now, during the Empire International Pictures era, he had some good early success. There was some bankruptcy problems by 1989. Again, we're not going to get too much into that because I don't have information direct from Charles Band. Yes, there is information on the internet, but let's be honest, not everything on the internet is true. But the main focus is that Empire International Pictures was up and running for approximately 6 years, and during that time made several iconic horror and fantasy feature films, including Trancers, Reanimator, which was based off a... Totally blanking on my names here, folks. Lovecraft, thank you. H.P. Lovecraft film, or H.P. Lovecraft novella, inspired the film Reanimator, as well as Dolls, which is going to factor more into the full moon era, as well as Troll, which got a pseudo-sequel, Troll 2, which is famous for being one of the worst movies ever made. Troll itself was not exactly much better. It's got its own infamy due to some naming coincidences with later franchises. They are coincidences. There's no proof anything else was copied. But more importantly, Empire International Pictures also produced the first 2 movies in the Ghoulies franchise. Honestly, that is probably the most noted franchise among horror creep fans from the Empire International days. Reanimator, because of the H.P. Lovecraft connections, is infamous. However, Ghoulies, I mean, every video rental store had Ghoulies out there. It was just... We all heard of the movie, even if we never saw it. It was certainly a cult classic success. But as I said, Empire International Pictures had some bankruptcy issues. Mostly due to the fact that, as I said, a lot of his movies were cult classic movies. And, you know, it's no judgment at all. We're definitely not, as I said, Trancers and Reanimator would continue to be make movies in the full moon era, and certainly some of the things he did in Empire International helped, as I said before, form the identity Full Moon would take on. And that's the main thing we're going to talk about, because, as I said, Full Moon is what Charles Band is most known for. Full Moon started out as Full Moon Productions, and they did focus on, as I said before, low-budget horror, sci-fi, and fantasy films, while maximizing creativity with special effects budget to make the movies look as good as things produced on a wider budget, bigger studio feel to them. Theme. And by and large, he did good with that. He made a lot of franchises that have become iconic among horror genres. The Full Moon logo, with, you know, it's gone through a few variants, but is something that, you know, an entire generation of teenagers recognize on sight. He had enough success through Full Moon Productions that in the early 90s, he founded 2 more labels that would be Torchlight Entertainment, which specialized in, bear with me folks, again, we're not judging tonight, softcore pornographic films, specifically ones with a sci-fi and horror feel to them. Not going to touch too much on that because we are generally a family-friendly show, but it existed. And speaking of family-friendly, he also founded Moonbeam Entertainment, which was your family-oriented sci-fi and fantasy films. Moonbeam was most famous and financially successful for Prehysteria, which was a live-action with, you know, puppetry effects film featuring little handheld, pocket-sized Dinosaurs! Because let's face it, in the 90s, dinosaurs were huge. Priest Area ended up having a trilogy and was partially distributed through Paramount. And as I said, for children of that era, it is an iconic film. It is something you can definitely find a lot of people reviewing online. I'm personally have not seen all of Priest Areas. I saw the first one, but I have not seen it since that time period, so I'm not going to get too detailed into it or try to review it, because we also have so much other stuff to do. But those were two sub-labels he founded. They, did their job. They did good. They never really became A-list things, but again, that really wasn't Charles Band's focus. His focus was on the video rental market, because in the 90s, and this is very hard for my younger viewers to understand because the rise of streaming and digital, even before that, we had your Netflix and your Redboxes, but video rental stores were a major part of American culture in the 90s. And Charles Band and his films were the backbone of many, many rental stores, especially in the horror section. I mean, I knew his films before I was old enough to watch them, because they were always on the shelf, and they took up so much space on the shelf. Because when he made the films, they rented well. They were great rental films. That was the thing Charles Band did best. Made horror, sci-fi, fantasy films that were great one-off rentals. And that when he made a sequel a year or two later, people would seem to be like, oh man, I remember renting the last one. That was a great watch. We should totally rent the new one. So, it's a thing. Now, in 1995, Full Moon Productions was renamed to Full Moon Studios. And by and large continued with the same thing they were doing as Full Moon Productions. Full Moon Studios, which that was the name of the label from 1995 to 2002, continued to develop the franchises that had started under Full Moon Productions and work on keeping pace with, as I said, as we get into the 2000s, the adjustment of the rental market institution and the rise of, as we previously mentioned, things like Netflix and Redbox. There was enough success that Full Moon released more labels. Alchemy Entertainment / Big City Pictures, which specialized in urban horror and science fiction films. Cult Video, which was mainly used to re-release old Band films from before the Full Moon era that he still had distribution rights to. As I said, he only did the first two Ghoulies. He sold the rights to Ghoulies to another studio who made 3 and 4 separately. Pulp Fantasy Productions, which was basically just random films that Charles and the other directors he worked with had ideas for that didn't fit Full Moon's standard image. It was like, oh, we got this film we want to do, but it's not really a horror, sci-fi, or fantasy type thing. Okay, we'll put it under Pulp Fantasy. And Pulse Pounders, which replaced Moonbeam Entertainment, in that was your science fiction and fantasy films for the family levels. As well as Torchlight Entertainment, which, as I said, was your softcore science fiction type stuff, was replaced by Surrender Cinema. Again, whether you're into pornography or not, what your personal opinion of softcore pornography is, You have a right to that opinion. We're not going to judge you. But we're going to fast forward through that because we are focusing on horror because this is our Halloween-a-thon. Now, one of the big things that Charles Band did was that he, during this era of Full Moon, was that he secured a weekly television series on the then Sci-Fi with Eyes, as opposed to the Y's, but the then very much younger and still finding its identity Sci-Fi Channel, as well as getting host William Shatner in on it. And this gave us William Shatner's Full Moon Fright Night. This was basically a place where the Full Moon films would air on the Sci-Fi Channel with special brand new wraparounds, such as interviews with Sci-Fi's most notable personalities, including ones that may have been in Full Moon films, hopefully even coincidentally some of the films you were watching that night. One of the other big things he did that really helped him out in the direct-to-video and rental market was that he would produce behind-the-scenes featurettes that would be included on the regular tape. Because the simple fact of the matter is that most horror genre movies tend to play best as 90-minute features, as opposed to a full 2-hour movie, or as we get nowadays, like 2.5, 3, 4-hour movies, you know. That's another subject for another time, but yeah, back then a lot of the horror movies were 90 minutes, if not a little shorter, sometimes 75 minutes. So, and that's fine because that's what you want. You want, in horror, a lot of the suspense builds up to one big oomph. You want quick beats of horror. You don't want time for the audience to rest and relax, because watching horror movies is all about that adrenaline high. So he would include behind-the-scenes featurettes with his movies, which was something nobody else that he was directly competing with was doing at the time, and it helped make them iconic. So from 2002 to 2004, we got into the Shadow Films era, and at this point, the creature feature, classic horror feel gave way temporarily to slasher films due to the resurgence of the subgenre following movies like Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I will forever say that Scream is one of the all-time great slasher films, mostly because it did address a lot of tropes and cliches. The sequels and current running TV series, not as much, because part of the problem is once you got past that initial pitch and you started making more movies and you had to justify people getting killed, all the cliches that Scream was making fun of started showing up in the later movies. But again, we're not talking about the Scream franchise full blown here, so we're going to kind of pull back on this. We'll get back to Scream another time, maybe next year for 2020 edition Halloween-a-thon here. We also got a little bit more business with William Shatner, as William Shatner's direct-to-video science fiction movie Groom Lake was produced in this era and was notorious because it was one of the most expensive films made in this era. So, we come around to 2004, which is where we return to Full Moon Pictures, and that is the current name in the studio. And we have gone back to good old-fashioned creature feature, straight up supernatural, with a little bit of fantasy here and there stuff. So, what this means is, real short before we get into the notable franchises, Charles Band has been, basically without interruption, producing movies in this genre for over 30 years. Now that is impressive. As I said, he dipped into another, the sci-fi, fantasy genres. at least as far as a studio head. And of course, sci-fi, softcore, pornographic stuff with Surrender Cinema and Torchlight Entertainment. Again, he was the studio head in that. He was not directly creating and producing those films. So that's the thing. But it all connects to the spooky, creepy, not everyday, not grounded in reality type movies, which is what we're all here to talk about, which is what we love about October when this kind of stuff takes center stage. So before we really get into the things, I just want to say, again, real quick, I love Charles Band's style. I love the fact that he has continued to, over time, over 30 plus years, 1983, 36 years. Let's be honest, 36 years. He has worked steadily at producing the movies he wants to make. And that he is good at making. And whether you like the films or not, you have to respect that. And that is why I'm doing this video, because I respect Charles Band. I like a lot of his big franchises. And I love the fact that he has been successful enough at it that he keeps going. And as creators, that's what we all want to do. We all want to keep going. We all want to keep moving forward, putting new product out, getting new fans, and continuing to leave people with memories of being entertained and having fun. So with that said, let's get into the movies that created all this wonderment. Because I know that's what you're really here for, and I've already spent 20 minutes discussing the man and the history of the studios. So, we're going to kind of bounce around a bit because I'm going to save the big one, the ultimate iconic franchise of all things Full Moon, for last. It's the one I'm most familiar with. So, we're going to build up to that big finale. Alright, we have Subspecies. This is Full Moon's take on vampires. Currently consists of 4 movies: Subspecies, Bloodstone, Bloodlust, and Bloodstorm. We have Trancers, which, as I said, originally started in the Empire era, but sequels were produced throughout the Full Moon eras, including Trancers 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which was actually produced by Young Wolf Productions, but was distributed by Band under the Full Moon Pictures label. Trancers is more of your science fiction side of things. You get your time traveling, your zombie-ish villains. So it's kind of a zombie film, but it's also kind of a time travel sci-fi film. All of them except for 6 feature the main character, Jack Death, or Death if you really want to be punny about it, who is a cop from the 23rd century who battles the Trancers, which are zombie-like humanoid things that are very nasty. Fun films. We have Killjoy, which is a relatively recent franchise. There's only 3 films in it, and focuses on a demonic clown who is typically summoned to assist revenge plots. However, one of the running themes is that, as often happens with many classic stories featuring demons, Killjoy is not so easily controlled once he is summoned. And therefore, our unwitting summoner usually ends up having to go against Killjoy for the sake of everybody. We have Demonic Toys. which is pretty much what it sounds like. A variety of different classic toy types brought to life with Killer Instinct. Demonic Toys is infamous because besides the original Demonic Toys and its direct sequel, Demonic Toys Personal Demons, it had a crossover with two other Full Moon movies, Doll Man and Bad Channels. We had the Prehysteria trilogy, which I already mentioned, which was technically done under Moonbeam Entertainment. Also done by Moonbeam Entertainment was Dragon World, which is about a young child who moves to Scotland after losing his parents in a traffic accident and later finds and befriends a dragon. There was a direct sequel, Dragon World: The Legend Continues. Sometimes known, if depending on your distribution, what country you're in, it's known under the title Shadow of the Night. Full Moon's first full-blown, straight-up zombie film, as opposed to, as I said, the zombie-ish things and trancers, was The Dead Hate the Living. We also have, again, another recent franchise, The Ginger Dead Man, which is about a criminal who is sent to the electric chair, comes back to life in the body of a gingerbread man, and decides to continue his killing spree, specifically getting revenge on the woman who sent him to jail. This was followed by Ginger Dead Man 2, Passion of the Crust, and Ginger Dead Man 3, Saturday Night Cleaver. It later had a crossover film with the next franchise we're going to mention, and that is the Evil Bong series, which is about a demonically possessed bong, as in, yes, something you smoke marijuana out of, and that was probably a really poor impression of bong smoking to proper potheads, but I'm sorry, that was never technically quite my feature. I'm having to base my little pantomiming off Hollywood portrayals, but Evil Bong has had 7 films in the series, not counting the Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong. This would be Evil Bong 2 King Bong, Evil Bong 3D The Wrath of Bong, Evil Bong 420, Evil Bong High Five, Evil Bong 666, and Evil Bong 777. Now, in among all these, we've also had a variety of one-off movies, including, because everybody loves Edgar Allan Poe, they did a infamous version of The Pit and the Pendulum. And we've also had such lovely sounding movies as Voodoo Academy, The Killer Eye, Totem, Shrieker, Hideous, Head of the Family, Robot Wars, Lurking Fear, and Dr. Mordred, which is actually a 1992 superhero film, was originally supposed to be a adaptation of Marvel's Doctor Strange, who of course we all know now thanks to the MCU, but things kind of fell through. Basically, the option to produce the film expired before production could begin, and so they tweaked the nature of the characters just enough to legally not be accused of making a Doctor Strange movie without the rights. Dr. Mordred Stars Jeffrey Combs, who was also famous for starring in Reanimator, which, as you recall, was an Empire Pictures movie, another thing done by the wonderful Charles Band. So, it's time for our big finale, the motherlode of all Full Moon movies, the franchise that he has built Full Moon off of. Inspired by the early Empire film Dolls and United Artists' success with Child's Play the year prior, I give you Puppet Master. The basics of Puppet Master is that in the 40s, a nice chap decided to obtain the secret to creating life, specifically life in the form of little wooden puppets, as he was already a puppeteer, and this was a great way to make his show more impactful. Things happen, including, as I said, this was Europe in the 40s, so there was a little thing called World War II. Since our puppeteer, Mr. Toulon, was not really much of a pro-Nazi person, and once certain members of the Nazi Party found out that he had the ability to bring wooden puppets to life with their own personalities and whatnot, that was a secret they wanted to get. So he went through a period of time where he and his puppets were killing Nazis, which is good. But then later on, things happen. He ends up in America. He kind of has a bit of a mental breakdown. The puppets themselves, the formula that gives them life and keeps them alive, requires human brain tissue. So he has to start killing people that maybe are not necessarily evil. And things happen. Toulon himself is later killed when trying to give himself immortality by transferring his soul into a human-sized puppet. The puppets themselves find other people to serve under. The beings that gave Toulon the original formula come looking for the puppets, and there is some puppets versus puppet-sized demon things going on. It's like this. The series is a little crazy, but it's a great series. Like, honestly, I thoroughly enjoy the franchise because you've got the whole gimmick of small size, thus they hide easily, and can sneak up on you easily. Killer creatures running around. The creativity in that each doll physically looks different, or should I say puppet, not doll, because Puppet Master, they are puppets. Woo! But each puppet not just looks differently, but all has a unique kill gimmick to them. And as the movies have gone on, they have varied up. There's always a core cast of puppets that's in basically every movie, but you also get puppets introduced. The timeline I laid out is not the timeline of the films. If you watch them in the order they're produced, they do kind of bounce up and down the whole timeline. Thus, there has been some retcons. There is a total of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 Puppet Master movies, including the Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys crossover film. And it's all well and good. Also, the most recent one, excuse me, actually there's currently 13. The 14th one is set to be released next year. So there's 13 with a 14th pending. But the 13th one is actually a parallel universe story. So discounting the crossover, discounting the parallel universe story, we have 12 stories in the main franchise. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 in the main franchise. Bleh. I don't know why I cannot keep my math straight right now, folks. This is what you get when you make movies at the end of a long day. But yes, there are 11 films in the main Puppet Master franchise, with the 12th one in the making. So, real quick, let's run through the movies and their titling. Puppet Master, Puppet Master 2, Puppet Master 3, Toulon's Revenge, Puppet Master 4, Puppet Master 5, The Final Chapter. When has Star Wars franchises ever stopped at a film called Final or Last? Curse of the Puppet Master, Retro Puppet Master, Puppet Master The Legacy, Puppet Master Axis of Evil, Puppet Master X Axis Rising, Puppet Master Axis Termination. 2020, we will have, you can call it spin-off if you want, but it follows the main series timeline. Blade, the Iron Cross. Blade is one of the, and perhaps the iconic puppet of the entire Puppet Master franchise. We also have the crossover film, Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys, and the, as I said, parallel universe, alternate timeline story, Puppet Master The Littlest Reich. Real quick. So, as I said, real quick, the original creator of Puppets was Toulon. We're not going to go super deep into the plot of these various films because well, simply put, there's a lot of movies, and I don't want to give too many spoilers because I want to encourage you to seek these movies out, and we do have a bit more to discuss about how you can seek these movies out. This is all very good, very good. But real quick, as I said, Blade is the iconic puppet of the Puppet Master trilogy, or, I don't know, trilogy, franchise. Way more than 3 movies, woo! They have a trilogy of trilogies, plus a few. Blade is the iconic puppet. As his name implies, he has blades for hands and a wonderful little coat. Now, Blade has appeared in every Puppet Master film. In fact, real quick look at my casting list here. He is the only puppet to have appeared in every single film, including the only one confirmed for the upcoming Blade the Iron Cross main timeline spin-off film. After that would be Pinhead. There's a drill on top of his head. Who has appeared in all of them so far, but is not confirmed for the upcoming Blade the Iron Cross. So, if you're not counting that one because it hasn't been released and final casting hasn't been confirmed yet, Blade and Pinhead have both been in every series. Jester has been in all of them except The Littlest Reich, which again is the alternate timeline one, so for main series, Jester has been in all of them. Tunneler has been in all of the main series, but was not in the crossover film Puppet Master vs. Demonic Toys. Six Shooter was not in the first 2. We only saw a cameo of his arms in Axis of Evil. However, aside from that, he has been in every single film. After that, you start getting into your puppets that have only appeared in 1 or 2 films. Leech Woman only missed out on Puppet Master 4, 5, and the crossover and parallel universe, so she's got a pretty good number 2. But as I said, then you start getting into the ones that have only appeared in a handful of films, like Torch, which is about it. Okay, yeah, and then after that, you start getting into Torch. Decapitron was in a couple, but then you start getting into your one shots like Genji, Shredder Khan, Mephisto, Drill Sergeant, Cyclops, Tank, Ninja, Blitzkrieg, Bombshell. There's a ton of puppets. But your core is Blade, Pinhead, Jester, Tunneler, Six Shooter, and Leech Woman. Those are your core puppets. As I said, except for Six Shooter not being in the first 2, and Leech Woman not being in 4 and 5, you can always guarantee they're going to be there. They are the core cast that make the Puppet Master series. Now, besides the main Puppet Master films, there has been a 4-issue comic book limited series called The Puppet Master Adventure, and a 2-issue sequel titled Children of the Puppet Master. There have been Puppet Master action figures produced by Full Moon Toys, and scale replicas of the series puppets produced by Full Moon Playthings in the late 90s. Figures have been discontinued. They are now major collector's items, so if you find them, expect to pay a lot for them. Puppet Master model kits, which were released in the early to mid 90s. Although they have recently been re-released. We're going to touch on that when we get into our just general how to encounter all these wonderful Full Moon films. In the modern era, there was a set of Puppet Master trading cards. In the 90s, Halloween costumes. It's all well and good. It's wonderful. As I said, Puppet Master is the core franchise of Full Moon. So, how do you watch your Full Moon entertainment? Well, if you have a smart TV, or you have a regular TV that's hooked up to a smart device like a Roku or an Amazon Fire or any other devices. I'm sorry, I don't know all the brand names off the top of my head. I know those are the big 2 on the market, and they have all their variant models underneath those brands. But point is, there is a Full Moon streaming channel where you can watch everything Full Moon has distribution rights to. And you also have a wonderful little site called FullMoonDirect.com. This is your home base on the internet for Full Moon features. You will get news about upcoming blah 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 blah, upcoming features, merchandise. Sorry, I'm scanning over the site right now as I'm talking. It's a site full of stuff. As I said, you can get the Full Moon Features streaming channel. You can get through the iPhone, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire, the Roku, Xbox One, pretty much anything that has streaming media option. It is a subscription-based channel. You can get it for $6.99 a month or $59.99 a year after a 3-day free trial. Now, as I said, considering that this is pretty much the entire history of their studio, there is, trust me, plenty of movies to keep you busy. $7 a month, to support a small studio and go through their history, including sub-labels and all that good stuff, is not a big price to pay. If you're not 100% sure about that, if you want to give the movies a free kind of preview, on your smart devices, there's a wonderful streaming channel called TUBI. Tubi, Tubi. I'm not sure exactly the pronunciation because, as I said, I always see it in print, but TUBI. It has a huge variety of stuff, but if you continue to scan down the category list, you will find a category of stuff from Full Moon Features. Now, these films, I'm going to warn you, because it is a free channel, the films do have commercial interruptions. So, that is going to be your balance out. But, that's how the channel does its thing. However, if you've already seen your wonderful Full Moon films, and you would like to own them without streaming options, something you can take to your friend's house and share, pass on, or you just like physical media. As I said, the FullMoonDirect.com website has Blu-rays, DVDs, Blu-ray DVD sets. You can get music, soundtracks from the various movies they have made, including I'm looking at this right now, a 2-disc set of music from just the whole Full Moon library. Just a sampling of music scores from all of the different films that have been made over 35 years. Most of which are produced by Charles Band's brother, Richard Band, who, as I said, is an award-winning film composer. It is 2 discs covering a total of 29 tracks, and it's $20, so it's less than $1 a song. That's a good deal. We also have replicas. You can get replicas, prints, action figures, bobbleheads, resin statues, plush toys, just anything the collector market can want to get into. Issues of Delirium magazine, which is a film magazine focusing on your horror, cult classic genre type films. You can also, if you really get into Full Moon after previewing all that stuff, as I said, watching the films on Tubi, putting up the commercials, checking out the Full Moon subscription-based streaming app, buying DVDs or Blu-rays if you're in the Blu-ray level. Right now, it began in the summer of 2019, but Full Moon Features is filming 10 original films back-to-back all over the world. And by going to deadly10.com, you can get more information about this great thing they're doing, where you can get on the service and have exclusive all-access virtual pass to watch the films as they are being produced in real time. I mean, that's better than a behind-the-scenes documentary, because this is more like a preview of film school. Like, this is what it literally looks like when films are being made. Especially films without a huge Hollywood, multi-million, dollar budget. Which is a great thing for aspiring filmmakers to know, how to make films without nigh unlimited budget. So, check it out. There's a link at FullMoonDirect.com, or you can go to www.deadly10.com itself for more information on that. So, there you go. We just about filled up an hour talking about Charles Band and all things Full Moon. There, whatever kind of horror, sci-fi, fantasy you like, there's at least one Full Moon film that covers it. Not Full Moon directly, one of the subsidiary labels, like Moonbeam Entertainment, for the family-oriented stuff. You know, in case you have children, you want something for them to watch. Seriously, go dig up Prehysteria. You know? At least the first one. Then you can see about the second and third one. First one was quite a fun movie, especially for its time. It's dinosaurs. It's midget dinosaurs. Teeny little, tiny, hand pocket-sized dinosaurs. They're cool. Who doesn't want a dinosaur that they can pick up and play with like his cat? It's perfect. It's a great idea for a movie. You know, there's enough here to fill up what's left of the October Halloween season and keep you going all year long until next October runs around and I begin the 2020 edition version of this marathon feature. For now, though, we are going to sign off. Once again, I do want to say I have all the respect in the world to Charles Band. To be in the movie-making business for over 30 years is highly impressive, and I hope he continues to stay in business as long as he wants to be in business. And by all means, check his stuff out. You know, give it a chance. Because the wonderful thing about horror is it doesn't need huge budgets. It doesn't need first-person found footage style filmmaking. It doesn't need crazy plot swerves at the end. Sometimes the best horror is where you know exactly what's going to go on from the get-go the entire time because, as I said earlier, it's that adrenaline rush. So, check out Charles Band. Check out Full Moon Features. FullMoonDirect.com. And then come back next Thursday because I'm going to announce it. Not only is Friday Ramblings moving to Thursday for one night only, but it is not a rambling. You want it? You want to know? You want to know the little secret I've been hyping? Friday Ramblings is becoming Thursday Tales. Because yes, just for you, just for people that view us, I'm going to create and craft and tell you right here an original spooky story on Halloween before you go trick-or-treating, before you curl up with your loved ones and count your candy, before you inspect that candied apple carefully and make sure it is as safe as it looks. You come to this channel, you come to Roulette Productions. I'm going to set the mood for the whole day with a spooky story just for you people, because I appreciate my fans, and it's going to be epic. It's going to be fun. And if it makes you scared to turn off the lights, well, you know, this is your fair warning. This is your 6-day warning. Because on Halloween, I am what bumps in the night. See you there, if you dare.